Hi, this is Jenny Williams, your six-figure coach for Get a Real Estate Life, and thanks so much for joining us for 60 Minutes to Six Figures Google Hangout. Today we're going to be talking with two wonderful agents, but we're going to be talking on the topic of how these two agents have earned six figures the first 6 months of this year without having an assistant. Before I introduce the panelists, I want to let you know that you're going to learn today what different profiles are, how to find out what kind of profile that you have, and what action items that you'll be actually committed to so that you also can duplicate their success and earn six figures within 6 months too. Now, to introduce our wonderful panelists, we've got Jason Cook.
Hey.
We've got Susanne Traweek.
Hey there.
And we've got our awesome Frank from Viral Marketing, who's going to be leading this call. So definitely ask questions because we want to hear your feedback. We want to make sure that you get tons of meat out of the time that you spend with us today. So he's going to tell you how you can ask questions, and we will definitely get answers for you. The next thing that you can do is as we're going through and talking about this topic, you may be curious to find out what your own profile is. You can go to our website at getarealestatelife.com and click on the profile, the assessment, and take it for yourself. Now, please note that it's 48 pages. And it takes about 25 minutes or so to fill out the entire profile, but it's going to come to me first, and then I will contact you, and we'll go over it together. All right, Frank, are you ready?
That's cool. Yeah, I'm here. If everyone can hear me well, so I'm Frank, and I'm helping them put these great events on. So, Jenny, before we go on, I think this is really cool because I really haven't heard too many people discuss finding out someone's, talents, their behavior, their personality through a profile first, and then adopting the coaching style to that profile. So tell me more about these profiles and what do you mean by that? Please explain.
Sure. I like to use a DISC profile. There are several coaches that use a variety of profile assessments, but I prefer using the DISC because it's always been correct. It's always been right on the money every time, and that is what we need as coaches to make sure that we know, what action items you're going to be committed to. There are 4 different profiles, and Frank, a lot of people are usually a combination of a few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the DISC stands for it's the DISC, how much D you have as your driver dominance. I is influence and how much you love people, I think. S is stability and how stable you like your work environment, I would think. And C is, I don't know, how much by the book you like something, right?
Yeah, your compliance factor.
Yep. Those are the 3 things on the DISC which you can take. And you have an ability where someone can go to your website and take that?
Yes. All they have to do is go to getarealestatelife.com and order the assessment, and again, it takes about 25 minutes. There are only like 22 questions, and it is amazing how much information you'll end up learning.
Cool.
In fact, Frank, I laugh because my husband's profile actually states stay 3 feet away from him at all times. And it's so true. And what an odd thing to have in print when you're reading it about yourself, but it really does capture who you are as a person, and especially as a salesperson. So
then you understand how to adapt their lead generation strategy based upon the individual. There's probably certain people that wouldn't be comfortable doing 100% outbound cold calling based upon their DISC. Right, where there's clashes on the methods of the teaching, and that's what's really interesting. So in 6 months, we got let's start with Jason here. All right, he's earned 6 figures in the last 6 months. Is that right, Jason?
That's right.
That's pretty darn good. And you started. So let's ask some questions here. So how long have you been in the business?
I got into the business in June of 2007. So I got in probably the worst time possible because I got in right when the market was slowing down. But I got in about that time and really started trying to build my real estate business.
And then when did you get involved with the coaching with Jenny?
I did not join up with the coaching program until August of 2012, so I've been in it for 2 years now.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your background, that story of when you first got into real estate, what you were doing, and then now what you're doing now with the help of what you're doing differently. So maybe you can relate to someone who was in your shoes of just getting into real estate business. Tell us about that, and then tell us about the transition to what you're doing now that's different.
Okay, sure. So in 2007, I was still in my 20s, late 20s, and I was a youth and college minister. I was working in a church. Had experienced kind of severe burnout from doing that. Was living in a different city, living in Mobile, Alabama. I'm from Birmingham. We moved back here so that I could start my real estate career, have a little bit more control over my schedule, because we were starting a family and I wanted to be able to see my kids and all that. And so I joined a different real estate company, was doing a lot of relocation business. That's about half my business was through relocation with the company, from relocation companies providing it to the real estate company I was working with. And then
how many deals were you doing at this time between 2007 and, like, say, 2012?
So,
on average a year.
So on average, probably I started off probably in the teens, my first year maybe 8 houses or something like that. I mean, it wasn't great. My best year before I joined the coaching program, I closed 25 homes, 24, 25 homes. But usually I was closing around 20. It'd be about 18 to 20.
And then how many, just to further comparison, how many are you on track to do this year?
Now this year I'm on track to do probably about 24, 25, but my dollar volume has increased so much that
so you really have increased whose home you're selling versus
correct.
Commission has gone way up.
Yeah, thanks to the coaching program, my average sales price has gone from about 175 to 180,000 up to about, I think this year my average sales price is probably around 250,000.
That's great.
So it's a big jump in income when you add up that $70,000 difference over 14 transactions.
So what's your disc profile? So when you came to Jenny and she had to figure out the method of you increasing your business, it was interesting. She coached you on the way to raise the average selling price. What's your profile? What are you high in?
I am a high S.
What does that mean, Jenny?
Okay, Jason is high S's are usually a little bit more difficult to coach. He, on the other hand, is very wonderful and is an implementer. Most high S's, they're supporters. That's your stability. They're usually extremely content with their situations, so they're not very competitive for the most part. But I knew Jason was going to be an off-the-chart high S because everybody always describes high S as, every time they say their name, comma, what a great guy or what a great girl. And every single person that knows Jason Cook says, oh, Jason Cook, what a great guy. So they're normally about the quality of relationship and not quantities. They're not out to go sell, 100 transactions. That's why the raising of the average sales price was so important. We could help raise his income without him having to be outside his true profile by selling tons of transactions. Now, Jason, you did, 29 last year, right?
That's right. Yeah, that was the most I'd done. Last year was a career year. And it took me almost 12 months to make the 6 figures, and then this year raised my sales price again and did it in half the time. So
how'd you do it? So when you work with Jenny, she said, okay, we're going to increase your transaction, at least make more money, right? Right. How did you go about breaking into new territories and new areas where you're at? Do you maybe share with that, Jenny and Jason, that story?
Sure. I mean, well, for me, so I live in a particular area of town that has a lot of high dollar volume homes. That's where I grew up. When I came to the coaching program, though, I wasn't focusing on that area. I was just trying to take whatever I could get from my sphere of influence. I like to work my sphere of influence a lot. But I would take that combined with the relocation business. And so it kind of had me over here and over there and not really focused on a particular area. And with Jenny, I ended up in my neighborhood working a lot more with that particular sphere, which ended up with higher dollar volume, higher dollar houses.
So you worked your sphere that was only related to people in the neighborhood?
Well, within a particular city, I should say, not necessarily a neighborhood, but I worked them a lot harder. I also, thanks to the coaching program, she got me involved with local businesses, working to build relationships with those business owners, small business owners.
Yeah, so let's talk about your lead sources. So you had you had a mid-year review with Jenny, and you went over your lead sources. Jenny, why don't you explain where he's generating all of his leads now versus maybe what it was before?
Well, like you said before, a lot of his business came from relocation. So that was scattered out throughout the city, and that's perfectly fine, but there are really high referral fees that you have to pay for that. So he was working, and his income just didn't, it just wasn't high enough to reward him for the effort that he was putting into his business. So he got rid of all the relocation. And let me go back to like a couple of the action items that started his transformation. And that was, Jason is the perfect example of using the whiteboard. And Frank, I saw the whiteboard behind you in your office earlier.
Uh-huh.
He knows that he has to have 4 new client appointments every week. Right, Jason?
Well, this year it's 5. But yes, it was 4 when I joined the program.
Yes. And he stayed true to that. And he had his whiteboard out. He knew that 4 is what he had to get. Jason, you're always so good about texting me to say, okay, I got 3, 1 more. And he was really reaching back out to that sphere of influence. And again, S's are about quality and about relationships. So the sphere of influence makes perfect sense for him. But he's also very community-oriented and wants to make sure that other people are buying in that area that he's in. So we made several different action plans for the local businesses in those areas. And Jason, you did, some videos to promote the local businesses and try to give back as much as you could.
That's right. Yeah, I brought in a couple of business owners. They sat down with me. We've recorded videos that I've uploaded to YouTube, posted on my blog and on my Facebook business page, things like that. Tell them about the business and about, they're in this community, they're small business owners, so support your small businesses, which, I think makes me look like somebody supporting the community, because I am, but gives me some credibility with those business owners as well.
Right, and all of that comes and has come back to you. Because Frank, when we're selling real estate, everybody's out on the street selling those neighborhoods. So the perfect question for people to step in and meet a small business owner is, hey, I'm out here selling your community every day. What can I share about your business that you really want people to know?
That's great. And that's how you got in with the business owners.
Yeah, it got them real excited about helping me, because if you're supporting someone's business, they're going to, the obvious impulse is to want to reciprocate that. They want to do that. They want to support you back. Mm-hmm. And I've been in a local networking group. It's actually a nationwide networking group with local chapters. It's called BNI, which stands for Business Networking International. They allow 1 seat per profession. So I was the only realtor in that group. We had 1 mortgage professional. We had 1 small business attorney or 1 accountant and things like that. And we would all support each other. And we kind of worked as our own sales force. So I would build relationships with those people. They would go out, look for business for me. I would look for business for them. And we operated off of that principle. We call it giver's gain. Basically, the more you give, the more you receive.
So you got your BNI for a lead source. You have your the business owners by doing the interviews with business owners, basically,
right,
in the community. And those business owners refer you, and maybe even they have homes to sell, hopefully
right,
at higher price points because they're business owners. and then you have your you targeting certain neighborhoods or cities rather more specifically. Are there any other systems that you've implemented this year in your business?
For systems, it was I did do some. I mean, that was the main part of it. I mean, I did some target marketing, some every door direct things for the specific area that I wanted to be in, and it usually had some kind of call to action to it, such as a free market analysis, just a free cup of coffee, things like that. I would use that, but for me, those didn't have a high enough rate of return where I wanted to invest a lot of time in that. So I would typically call on friends I knew of that had people looking in a particular area.
How many people are in your database?
Oh, there's the question, Frank.
How many people? I mean, it sounds to me like your business is really just directly proportionate to the number of people in your database. As that goes up, your business goes up, right?
It's correct, but I tend to delete a lot out of my data. I'll probably delete more than I should. Jenny probably gets mad at me for doing that.
Well, there's obviously something here. So, Jenny, what do you mean by that's the question?
That is the exact question. And S always has fewer people in his or her database because, again, it's about quality and it's not about quantity. So I can usually know when an agent comes in and says, well, I've got about 60 people in my database. Then I usually know right off that they're high S. Jason, you want to share how many people are in your database?
I have 98 people in my database.
And that was
that's up from the 60 that I had when I started, though. I might have had 65, but I have 98 quality people that when they send me a referral, it's not a lead. It is I will get them on the phone and I convert probably 95% of those. I mean,
have you started ranking your database in like A, B's, and C's? Going like one step down in the relationship?
I do. I have them ranked out like that. I have A, B's, and C's, and then when they get to delete, they get deleted. But yeah, I have A plus, A, B, and C's actually, because A plus they kind of get some special treatment because they refer more than most.
That's true. And the reason that it's such an important question, Frank, is because a lot of people think you need a huge sphere of influence or a huge database to earn six figures, and it's just simply not the case. And Jason, you don't browbeat anybody, do you? You're not calling every single day or knocking on their door, or you're not bugging these people ever.
I hope not. Jenny gets on me because I feel like I might be, but she reminds me that no, that people actually
you're calling up with something helpful of information. Here's a market update. Here's what's going on. Here's this cool video I did with this business. You got to go check out. Maybe there's a coupon with it. You always leave with something of value. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I think this is really interesting. So here's a high S that values their database very highly, apparently, with 98 people, right?
Correct.
That is key relationships. You're leaving the area and you're relocating to an entire new city. You're going to just north of Dallas and Frisco. You're going to start a whole new real estate business in a brand new city. I think it's going to be interesting to say if you had to do it all over again, what would you do? Especially for someone who values the relationship in the database where you won't have one, right?
Right. And so I've been working with Jenny to set up a plan in place we've been talking about over the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I've got about another week and a half to kind of prep everything, so when I get out there, I'll be ready to implement. But I mean, some of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to call up a BNI chapter, try to get involved with a BNI chapter, call up the Frisco chamber, and find out what small business owners are in that area, and start getting to know them. Call them up, remind them or let them know that I'm now selling in their neighborhoods. Find out how I can help them, and then from there set up some networking, keep in contact with them, add them to the database as I move along. I'm just going to have to do it at a more accelerated pace than I did, because when I started, I just pretty much had my friends and just would do that. I didn't think too much about business owners. Now I realize that especially small business owners that live off referrals are the best ones to give referrals, which are my favorite types of leads. So So I'm going to be working those especially hard. Now I have one connection in Frisco, and that's my sister, who is not a high S. Do what?
I said she's a good connection to have.
Yes, she is a very good connection to have. She and I, personality-wise, might be polar opposites. If we took the Myers-Briggs test, I would be more introverted. She is extroverted to the extreme. Has never met a stranger. Would probably have 300 people in her database. She is going to, we have it set up where she's going to throw a big welcome to Texas party for me. Invite all of her friends, which will probably be a ton of people, and allow me to meet them, pass out my card, get to know them.
Well,
if anyone has any, I'm sorry, I just want to say really quick, if anyone has any questions for Jason, there's a little Q&A app here right on the Hangout, and you can type it in, and you can ask Jason the question. We'll answer here right in the event. But go ahead, Jenny.
One thing I was going to say is that, Jason, you've had really good luck with housewarming parties also.
That's correct. Yeah, one of the things I would do that I started doing when I joined the coaching program. I mean, the year before I joined the coaching program might have been my worst year in real estate. I'd sold maybe 7 houses in about 7 months. I mean, about a house a month, and I came crawling to Jenny's door and said, "How do I fix this?" And I mean, she talks about high S's needing some kind of motivation. I was seriously motivated. I have 2 kids and a wife who depend on me to bring home the income. So when I came to her, it was, what do I need to do to make this succeed? Because I'm going to be out of the business if this doesn't work. And I was using up all my savings. And, she kicked it into gear for me. So I ended up making 6 figures last year and 6 figures this year. The only 2 years I've been in the program, I made 6 figures both years. But,
that's great.
But she had me doing housewarming parties for clients. If I had a buyer that found a house, I'd say, all right, we're going to get you settled in a month. We're going to throw you a housewarming party, and invite. I want you to invite all the people you know, and I'd have like a door prize, have people register so I could add them to my database, send them, or at least send them helpful info if they needed it. But it'd give my buyer a chance to say, hey, this is Jason. He did a great job getting me into a house. If you need a realtor, you should contact him. And it was a great lead source for me, and at the very least, it got my name out around town with, hey, I'm going to this housewarming for my friend who's her realtor's throwing it for. And people would say, my realtor didn't throw me a housewarming party. So that was another thing I did that, which was successful, and I also did a couple of seller seminars for sale by owners on what you need to know to sell on your own. I would do that in the area that I wanted to be in. And I would typically get an appointment, at least one. I think on one I got a couple of appointments out of it every time I did it. So
that's great. I think it's interesting to see your personality type and who you are, and the methods of you going out getting your business based upon that has fit you perfectly. And then Jenny's been able to match that up, and it's brilliant. So I think it's interesting. Susanne, let's transition over to you. Thanks for everything you've said, Jason.
Sure.
You have a totally different personality type, or at least DISC, and you have a different way of going about getting your business. So before we get to you, hang on, Jenny, tell me about Susanne.
Susanne has a ton of experience, and she is sitting on a gold mine full of repeat business. So completely different profile. She is a CD, which is highly analytical, and then follows it up with her driver. So she has to process things before she will agree to do them. And it has to make very good, logical sense for her to agree to do something. Am I right, Susanne?
You're absolutely right. We
Well,
have this question a lot.
And after, she processes the information, done. She will go on and get it done, and then wants the next thing. So what I love, my husband's also the same profile as Susanne, so I have, lived with this wonderful, unique person and profile for, 23 years. So I understand it completely. And as one person said when I went to a Todd Duncan conference one time, you've got 1 foot on the brake and 1 foot on the gas, waiting to go.
So So how long? So Suzanne, so how long have you been in business?
I started selling real estate when I was only 25 years old. And so that was a long time ago. After several years of that, I began to do property management. I moved for a short time to a different state, then came back with little children and took a little bit longer break and then got back in. So probably this go round it's been about 15 years.
Okay, and you got involved with Get a Real Estate Life when? How long ago did you get involved?
Just about
Not quite how long? About 2 years?
Right.
Okay,
Almost.
about 2 years.
November will be 2 years.
Okay. So your profile will be then a CD is what they call it. So a very high C and then a very high D. So you want it done now and you want it done right.
I want it done
That seems-
yesterday. Yes.
That seems conflicting.
It is conflicting.
Okay.
In fact, when I found that out, Jenny said, I need to meet with you. Like,
Interesting.
oh, no.
You know, it's interesting for what it's worth. Gary Keller, who started Keller Williams, is a DC.
Oh, really?
Has that same profile. Yeah, it's a very unique. It's a very, very unique profile. It's very rare, from what I understand. All right, so tell us about your lead sources. Tell us about. Well, actually, hang on. So before coaching, you were doing how many deals?
Before coaching, of course, our market was a little bit different and wasn't doing a lot of deals. In fact, shamefully, I wasn't keeping up with how many deals I was doing. Wasn't keeping good books. Didn't know if I was washing or hanging out to dry. Really, I was probably doing maybe 14, 15 a year. And in my locality, I live north of Birmingham, where average sales price is pretty much in the 140s. Some lower, some higher. So I was a status quo realtor.
So now you're no longer a status quo realtor. You're doing a lot more.
That's right.
So how many deals are you on track to do this year?
I've done 33 so far. I have a few now, of course, on the books, and it's probably going to take, I think, Jenny, you helped me out here, probably going to take 65, 75 to meet my goal.
Yes, I think somewhere around 70 because she's easily going to surpass 60. Now, and one thing I want to say, Suzanne, about you is that you've had many, many really good years
Yes.
in real estate. So
Right.
it wasn't like you had tons of bad years and coaching changed all that. That's definitely not what I want to say or make sure that we don't have the message. You've had many great years as an agent. So really what we've been focusing on is just adapting and increasing skills and working smarter, right, and not harder.
That's right.
While
Fine-tuning some things where one thing, Jenny, you've taught me really is to capitalize on my strengths. I think about that every day. So, and that's where that profile really helped.
Well, and the strength is like what you said is done right and done now. There is a strong sense of urgency where in S, I mean, Jason and we had to put language together, and I mean, I told him, I don't know if you remember this conversation before, Jason, but I said, even if you don't feel the sense of urgency, fake it. So that your customers will, know that you are moving quickly, because an S is usually, oh, I'll get to it. But I think you really bought into that, and that helped because one thing we try to do is call, a lot of times evaluate the transactions with clients and, just figure out, is there something you could do better? Is there something that the agent could have done or did that you didn't like? And sense of urgency is usually always true with all the clients. They all want you to have a strong sense of urgency. And Suzanne has that. And the do it right. It's a great reason to hire Suzanne because she wants everything perfect and she will work extra to make sure that it's perfect, right?
So how did you get your lead sources together? So tell us about your lead sources, Suzanne, and why those lead sources fit your personality type perfectly.
Well, I have this saying that I'm just me being me, and I've just found that's the best way to be. So a lot of people will often tell me, sellers will say, oh, you're so easy to talk to, and then we have a great relationship, the sale goes well, and then they know somebody in their office or somebody in their family. I've done 5 or 6 transactions within the same family, brother, brother-in-law, parents. And so that's just really worked out well for me. Are selling and then they're buying another one, and somebody in the workplace finds out that worked well.
Okay. You said you're doing some technology stuff, right?
I'm a paper person, so I'm really trying hard to learn technology. I have somebody not on a full-time basis, but that helps me with technology. And what I implemented there was kind of like with real estate and a brokerage fee. If I get a closing, we'll pay that off to help them out a little bit too, because I am indeed a paper person. So I'm learning a lot about technology, the social media. I know the internet is so important now, so working on that, because I think that's really, really important in getting to the next level.
So what's she doing, Jenny? Fill us in on how you've coached her on her lead generation.
All right. Well, what we've done is Susanne has become very intentional about referrals, where she's always gotten them, and she's always gotten repeat business from doing a really good job previously. Now we've taken like a MailChimp account, right, and you've put together, which is free, and so it doesn't cost her a whole bunch of money to be able to stay in contact. And she's putting really valuable things within her community in this MailChimp newsletter that she emails out, and so it's starting to be really interactive, isn't it?
It is. It's very interactive. I've had a lot of people respond back, which I was really surprised about that. Shamefully, I was looking to see what the fallout rate was and who was unsubscribing, and then I started to get feedback, and they said, this is good information, or tell us about this, or tell us about that. So it was a lot of fun. And we do that pretty much every week, every Sunday afternoon.
And it's going to be, in true CD fashion, it's going to be one of a kind. It's not canned or scripted. That's very important to Susanne, that she stands out and is different and provides her clients like a different experience. So that's been something that's been new, that you've done an excellent job being very consistent with that also. Another thing too, that CDs are normally not so much about the relationship itself, and they're really good at getting new clients and not necessarily pay much attention or detail to staying in touch or supporting and nurturing that past client relationship. CDs are really good about generating new business, and she is good at that, but the MailChimp has been put in place because of all the repeat business that she does have. So that's been great. Community events is another thing that she has really put her heart into, and the community has definitely surrounded her. You want to share about your coat drive?
Yes, I have a coat drive at least once a year, and that's just my heart. I have a heart for the homeless, and what I do is I donate a portion of the proceeds of every closing to a homeless community or someone who is currently homeless. And when I first met Jenny, we talked about purpose and what my purpose was, and I told her how I'd always had a heart for the homeless, and that really motivates me. That really motivates me to know that I'm going to be able to write that check. I'm helping a buyer, I'm helping a seller, and I'm helping someone else along the way as well.
Right. She puts how much proceed toward every closing?
I don't actually have a set figure now for this year. My goal is to give at least $10,000 by the end of the year to a homeless community.
It's a good amount of money. That's great.
It is. And her heart is right there. And she did a coat drive, and our coach Kimberly Bibb also helped her with that situation. But like our marketing director Karen sent out press releases, and she got TV crews there to cover the event, and a lot of the other companies came out to rally around Susanne and rally around the cause as well. And so things like that have definitely spread the word throughout the community for giving people another reason to hire her.
Cool. Any other systems that you want to share that you've been implementing in the coaching, Susanne?
A lot of the systems that I work is like I was saying, just to focus on what I know are my strengths, and that's something Jenny and I have worked on quite a bit, and looking at that profile, pulling up what I needed to work on. Like she said, you know, focusing and recapturing those that I have in my pipeline, you know, or that I have in my database, and I've always been good at getting referrals. Truly love people, but you know, wanting to stay in touch with them. The worst thing in the world is I used to say I was the secret agent. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Nobody wants to be the secret agent, you know, and be told you're shopping at the store and somebody said, "Oh, are you still in real estate?" You know, and so I realized I needed to be. Jenny's laughing, but it's so true. That's the worst thing you can hear, right, Jenny?
Yes.
So I learned that I really, really needed to be more proactive in that, you know. So until probably about 3 years ago, I you know, kind of like Jason was saying, I thought, you know, what am I going to do? You know, real estate was really the only thing I knew, and I'm all in or I'm out, you know. And I said, I don't know anything else, and I'm going to have to take this to the next level. And that's when I called Jenny, and what a day maker. What a life change.
So I got to ask this. I mean, you said earlier, I mean, how do each of you get by doing all this without any help or any assistant?
Well, I do have somebody that helps me, just not a full-time assistant. Mainly the technical issues. Again, I'm a paper person. I can't tell you how to put something on YouTube. I can't tell you how to make a video. That's just not my forte. So I'm just gonna.
But you made some awesome videos.
I do have some awesome videos. I will say I have some awesome videos, and they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. So and I've gotten some great leads off those too.
Yes, and I also share one of the systems that I know our team at Get a Real Estate Life was just so excited to see, because she was the absolute first person to implement this, and I really don't know if anybody else has. She's the only one that has stepped up and done this, and that is your audio, your CD that we put together with your special branding on it. I mean, it just, again, Susanne likes to make sure that she has marketing tools that are different from anyone else. And I personally love this idea, and the branding on it, it just sets her way apart. You want to share about that?
Yes, it was a little bit off the cuff, and we kind of called it, I think if I remember right, we called it turning lemons into lemonade.
Yes.
So I was talking to Mitchell, and he was telling me this, that, the other, and I was like, well, we want this to work. And so Jenny stepped in, and she said, well, let's just put it on a CD. And so Mitchell hooked us up, and we mailed them out. And I think we got 100, and I think I probably got 4 or 5 leads and sales off that.
And what it is, Frank, is that we did a video, and we weren't crazy about the video, but we loved the content.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, you know, with working with videos, sometimes you just can't capture every piece of it, but the content was so good, and it was really good tips and information from Susanne about what she stands for, and our marketing team got together and created really nice branding and burned the CDs, and they went out to expired listings.
Nice.
And, yeah, really set her
Probably
apart.
really positioned her as an expert.
Mm-hmm.
Usually
Yeah.
education-based marketing. Good.
Absolutely.
What about you,
she had-
Jason? I want to hear from Jason. I got to get you in here, buddy. You did all this without an assistant.
Do what?
You've done all this without an assistant.
Yes.
No assistant.
So I never hired an assistant. Now Jenny makes us time block, which I am not always faithful on, but when I do, I'm extremely efficient. So now for a time, Get a Real Estate Life had someone doing what's called contract to close. So if I got something under contract, I could turn it over to them, and they would set up they'd keep me informed on like the home inspection and keep in touch with the attorney and things like that. And I just would pay them per closing. But but we don't have anybody like that right now. So
we are making an announcement about that this week, Jason.
Oh, well, excellent. Just in time for me to leave town. So, but without an assistant, I mean, I didn't really. I never really used an assistant anyway. I wasn't used to using one. I guess my personality is I like things done a certain way, and I want it done a certain way, and so I would have to just block off that time and say, okay, well, this morning I'm going to work on these contracts and find out, I'm going to follow up on this, I'm going to follow up on that, and then this afternoon I'm going to block off 2 hours to prospect, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to block off these 2 hours to put this listing in the computer. Different things like that I would do. Now, some of the marketing stuff we can get a real estate life to do. Karen can design flyers and things like that. Now I have to run those out, and sometimes I can email those to a client and give them something to do, so they have some investment in the property as well. But as far as the marketing goes, but yeah, I've learned over the years just kind of how to time block, and because my dollar volume is high enough that my transactions are lower. Now so usually I have a couple months there, usually the summer months, like April, May, or June, it gets pretty busy and kind of chaotic, and my wife doesn't see me as much. But there are times, throughout the year where I can usually time block it off enough where I don't have to worry so much about falling behind or anything like that. I try to make sure everything's organized. I am big on technology, so I have everything synced. I'm an Apple guy, a Mac guy, so I have everything synced between my iPhone, my iPad, my Mac. Everything's on my calendar, and my wife can see that, and so she knows when my appointments are and can remind me about those as well.
Well,
Cool.
Frank, I tease Jason that everything is so easy for him now. The world definitely is working in his favor. It's amazing the difference over 2 years makes, because the days are easier, business comes to him. When you finally have things set up and running the right way, which of course now he's ruining it because now he's moving to Texas, but
But I know how to start it up now. I don't have to spend 7 years learning how to do it again.
I know. It's going to be great. It's a great market there. But, I think that one thing that we do at Get a Real Estate Life is help people not necessarily be your assistant. We're not assistants. But I understand when I was a really busy agent that people need help with implementation. So we do the agent's property flyers, and we use IVRs to help increase the leads off of each listings. And we provide those forums so they don't have to worry about creating them, or worse, creating ones that aren't effective. And our marketing department also can do certain postcards and marketing. So that helps the agents a lot as far as leverage. And that's just a part of what we do.
Are there some other profiles exist out there? So we have a DC.
Uh-huh.
And we have a high S. I
Yes.
think we kind of, just by listening and hearing you guys, meeting you for the first time, I can see that come through. It's interesting. Are there other personality types that exist? What do you think I am, Jenny?
I think that you are probably very similar to me. You're an ID.
Yep. I think you're probably safe to say that. So I like people, but I also like to get things done. And
Yes.
I leave a mess behind me.
For all the
Other people, for the
Yes.
S's to help me out cleaning up.
organized.
So what are some other, for example, maybe give me 2 other personality types. Let's say someone took this, and let's say they are a high D, low I. What would you have them do?
Well, they're going to be more excited about cold calling, and they're going to be really excited about getting people into the process that they don't know. Lead generation, they're not fearful of it if they're a DI. 75% of people, though, are ISC. And ISCs are your excellent buyer's agents. because most of them, and one of the things too that we didn't talk about, Susanne is definitely a listing agent. She has helped many buyers and will and does help buyers, but Susanne is loves marketing. She loves the process of marketing, and she loves taking a house and figuring out that target market and putting a plan together for that seller. A lot of D's are going to be driven that way. Your C's are going to be really not people-oriented at all, and really would rather, like when you're just all high C, do foreclosures or short sales because they like the processes of it, and they that's why you'll never get a return phone call from a lot of high C because why call you back when an email or a text will do?
Yeah.
Very little interaction, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So their job would be to get relationships with banks and asset managers. Most people in real estate are going to be very high I because those are your influencers, your people. A lot of times when people pass a real estate exam and they come and talk to us, the first question we might ask is, so what made you get your real estate license? And the most common thing we hear is, oh my gosh, because I just love houses. Well, I usually know that I'm talking to a really high I because they love people and they love houses. And that's going to be, their action items are going to be parties and things that they can do with other people. They're going to be events for their clients and a lot of phone calls and a lot of high interaction.
Absolutely. What would you say? By the way, that's really fascinating. I mean, you can write up a whole probably manual going through all the different DISC profiles with a recommended business model to go about your business based upon how someone responds to that test. And I think that's so incredible how you matched up to the person, Jenny.
Well, if you take that and like what Susanne said, your purpose and your heart, and then you can build a business plan all based on that, and then your business becomes easy. It's not so daunting, it's not so hard, and you can become really passionate, and passion is contagious.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say for our agents, Jason, Susanne, for each of you, what would you say was the biggest obstacle in the past, say, 6 months that you had to overcome to break into a six-figure income range? Let's start with you, Jason. Biggest obstacle, biggest challenge for you?
The biggest challenge was probably I've had to learn, believe it or not, I had to learn to ask for the business a little bit more than I was used to. I was used to, if I talk to someone, I kind of, throw a joke in about how I'm still in the real estate business or something like that. Now it's a lot more direct. We actually, Jenny and I talked about this at our coaching session last week, is I do an initial buyer's appointment, and one thing I hadn't been doing was asking for 3 referrals at that appointment. I would usually wait until a closing table, something like that, but go ahead and asking for it directly and asking for it sooner rather than later. So one of the biggest obstacles was just learning, kind of retraining myself on when to ask for the business. And making a point to do that.
At Vector, where they teach you how to build those Cutco knives. I think at the very end of the presentation of the knives, they literally pull out a sheet of paper and write 1 through 20 on it.
Yes.
So let's think of 20 people you can refer me to. And these are kids in college.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it?
And we have some agents that went through that and sold Cutco. They're probably our best, if you want to say, quote-unquote, salespeople. They're so good because they have been really trained on overcoming objections, not listening to no, and following scripts and asking for the business. That's
great. Okay, what about you, Susanne? What was your biggest challenge over the past 6 months to break you through to getting into the six-figure income range?
A lot of it was a lot of self-talk, to say, yes, you can do this, and just motivating, if you will. I'm not a big fan of that word, but that I can do this. You know, if somebody else can, I can. Again, I used to think status quo, and that everybody, you know, that was just the life of a real estate agent. That most of them, you know, did go from one closing to the next, and it was just basically a season of mediocrity, and that there were a few that really excelled. And that's not true. And I had to learn that there was a way to jump that hurdle and move forward. For me, something that's been really effective is not just getting out there and listing and selling, but I had to take a step back and get a lot of education. For example, foreclosures, which are really on our market now. For a good while, I was saying, okay, no, I don't do that. No, I don't do that. And I would refer that to someone else, and then I didn't see a return on it. And so I thought, okay, Jenny and I talked and said, you're really missing out on income there. So I think in the last 2 months, I've sold 4 foreclosures, and also gotten a lot of education because they're all different, different types of foreclosures. So
Yeah.
education is important.
Cool. All right. Well, Jenny, why don't you explain to me again where someone can take this profile? This is interesting to me. Tell me again how you can use it in coaching and why you think it's so important.
Well, and it's also important if you're married or thinking about being married, just so you can better understand each other. You can go to our website at getarealestatelife.com and order the profile. And again, it's about 22 questions, and it's 48 pages long. It's going to come to me first, and then I will contact you and go over it with you so you understand.
Cool. All right. We got a few minutes left, everyone. I think we covered a lot of good content here today. Again, if anyone has any questions that's on the Hangout, you can just go to the little Q&A app here and just type your question in, and we can answer it here for everyone. Let's talk about maybe one thing we could say is, if someone was in your shoes where you were when you started, what advice would you have to give them?
When they started in the business or started with the coaching program?
Yeah, the coaching program. So if they just started, if they were at the stage of business that you were at when they get started with the coaching program, what would you tell someone to be successful with coaching?
I mean, what I told Jenny is I needed someone to hold me accountable, and that whatever she told me to do, I was going to do it. I mean, I had to reach that point, and I'd say you have to be willing to at least try whatever it is that she recommends, because thanks, with the DISC profile, she kind of knows personality styles, and because of that, I mean, and she asks you right away, how do you like to prospect? What do you like to, what do you like about prospecting? How do you like to get business? And you tell her, well, implement whatever, at least try whatever it is. You got to be willing to try whatever it is she recommends. You may not like it and it may not work, but that's okay. You can try something else. So that's what I would recommend. I mean, I came in, saying I've got to do this or I've got to find a different career path. So I was willing to try whatever else, and I just had to try it, even if it took me out of my comfort zone.
Okay. What about you, Suzanne?
We didn't have too many of those outside of the comfort zone issues.
I think learning to really, truly be an implementer, and that's something that I really, really learned from Jenny. And if I come in for coaching and then I come back the next time and I haven't done it, I haven't done any good, so what's the point? And Jenny's really smart, and she comes up with some really, really great ideas, and I just kind of leave shaking my head going, how'd she think of that? Wow, so I leave with a lot of takeaways, a lot of light bulb moments, and then I really like going out and implementing it, and then I like to tell her, hey, that worked, How neat was that?
Great. All right, well.
Too, that y'all actually will implement, because I mean, like Jason said, not everything is going to work, but at least you're out there doing it. Most of the time we find that when something doesn't work, it only takes a tiny little tweak when you try it the next time to get really good results.
Okay. Well, so Jason and Suzanne, tell us who your ideal client is, who you like working with, and how they can contact you.
Well, my ideal client's going to change in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, someone dial out.
So when I moved to Frisco, though, and people ask me what my ideal client is, I'm going to say someone who lives in Frisco, most likely 28 to 40, a young professional, hopefully either about to start a family or just started a family, because typically, in my experience, the people that I work with the most, they're either having a baby or they just had a baby. They're looking to either buy their first home or they're looking to move up for the first time. So that's my ideal client, because they're gonna either buy their first home and move again probably in 3 to 5 years, or they're looking to buy their second home and then you get a listing and a sale. So.
How can they reach you?
I'm sorry, how do they reach you?
Well, I'm keeping my cell phone number the same for a while, but you can either reach out on my website, which is just jasoncooksells.com, or you can call me at 205-789-1975.
What about you, Suzanne? Who's your ideal client? Who do you want to work with?
My ideal client is somebody, and probably everybody loves this, is somebody that really truly has realistic expectations. A lot of us are emotionally attached to our property, and I understand that, our home. What I really love to do is to go in and talk with somebody, and what I say to them, just very candidly, is I say, I'll tell you very gingerly what to do, but I will be very direct. Helping them stage the house, helping them, being really analytical, go through the process of the prices of the homes and the comparables and such. And what I tell them is, by the time we go through this, you can tell me what your home value is. But somebody who is really, welcoming that, and that happens a lot of time, Frank, when somebody's had their home on the market before and it didn't go so well for them. So, sometimes the second go round after they've been referred to me, they're much more open to listen to people. And to listen to those suggestions.
Great. Okay. How do they get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, and it's Sell with Suzanne. That's S, Suzanne, not a Z. sellwithsuzanne.com. And my phone number is 205-936-8636, and I will answer.
Cool. That's great. Well, Jenny, I think it was a really good hangout. Any closing words?
Yeah. Well, we do have one event that's coming up. It's on September 2nd. So if you're in Birmingham, then definitely you want to come and hang out with us all day long at Iron City, which is a really cool venue. We've got a band that kicks off the day with a story of perseverance with a finalist from America's Got Talent. And then Simon T. Bailey is our keynote speaker. Then we've got Gary Wise with the Paperless Agent in Austin, Texas. He is flying in to help agents and show them how to work all their contracts electronically from their iPad and their phone, so they can be highly organized. So you can get a ticket to that at bhammastermind.com.
Cool. Well, everyone, thanks so much for the hangout.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.